And now, last but not least, the Metropolitan Division, the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's start with the Hurricanes. They finished first in the division last year. I have them second this year.
All right.
I
Very
have them
nice.
second this year. I think
I
you
have,
know who I have first, but we'll get to that.
I'm sure we'll get to that in just a moment. Well, for me, I'm going to have Carolina finishing second as well. I'm right with you. I actually think they got better this offseason. But just a couple question marks for me. The back end, I'm not entirely sure if they have enough offense, from the back end. Say what you want about Tony D'Angelo and what kind of person he is and what kind of character he is in the locker room. He was their power play quarterback, for the entire year last year. And you're replacing him with Brent Burns, and Brent Burns is still a pretty good offensive defenseman, but he's slow. I just don't know how he's going to adjust on that first power play unit alongside Jacob Slavin. I just don't know. It's one of those things where, Jacob Slavin and Brent Burns as a pair looks good on paper, but how's it going to look once you get onto the ice? And I just don't think it's going to have that magic turnaround that a lot of Canes fans hoping it would. Max Pacioretty is not going to be healthy to start the season. He probably won't be back until the All-Star break, so that goes a lot into my decision. And I don't think Freddie Anderson is as good as the numbers showed he was last year. And I don't think Antti Raanta is as good as the numbers as they showed last year. And I think that's a tandem that could easily go from last year winning the Jennings to this year being just a mediocre tandem in this division. That's
I'm
kind of
actually,
where I'm at with them.
I don't know. I disagree with you on that one because here's why. I always pick literally almost every single year I've picked Anderson in fantasy, and for some reason every time I pick him in fantasy, he always has a really good year, and he's
Right.
playing behind a good team. And Ranta is actually he proved when he was on the Rangers that he's a very high quality backup goalie. I still think they're a very good tandem. Now, offense offensively, you said there could be some question marks, but here's a guy you didn't mention. Brett Pesce is an unsung hero of this defensive core. Him
Mhm.
and Slavin are carry this defensive core. Burns is going to be good for their power play. I mean, Shea is okay. He's nothing special, but he's not terrible. And then Ethan Bear, young guy. Dahan Dahan is a decent third pair defenseman. I think their defense is actually not as bad as people think it is. And look up front. Natchez and Jarvis are two young, skilled forwards who are only going to get better. Aho, I mean, very good. He's going to put up points every year. Svechnikov, he's still 22. He's going to probably score 30 goals again this year. Teravainen has been excellent since getting traded here. They have good bottom six forwards in Fost and Kasha and Martinuk, and they just signed Paul Stastny. So they got some very good veteran experience, aka Jordan Stahl as well, to mesh with the young forwards, which is why, with all that being said, the good defensive core, the good tandem, the good mix of youth and veteran leadership on the forward group is why I have them finishing second.
Yeah, that's definitely fair enough. And I love the young players. I mean, Nietzsche, I like a lot. He had a little bit of a tough playoff, but who didn't have a tough playoff? Seth Jarvis. And Seth Jarvis came in as a very young, undersized forward. And there could be an argument that could be made that he was one of the best forwards in that series in the semifinals against the Rangers throughout the entire 7 games. And his absence in game 7, when Jacob Trouba took him out with an elbow to the head, that makes a difference, in my opinion. I like the defensive core, like you said. The goaltending, the only thing that gets me with Carolina is one thing: health. Can Antti Raanta stay healthy for an entire season?
Can
Can
Freddie
Freddie
Anderson
stay healthy for an entire season? Freddie didn't play in the playoffs. Antti Raanta got injured, in game 7 against the Rangers. Had to be replaced by Fedor Kochetkov. So I just don't know if they can stay healthy. We know where their ceiling is. They won the Metro last year. They've been a team at the top of this division for a few years running now. But for me, I just don't think they're going to have the ability to stay healthy. I don't think they're going to have the ability to score more than they did last year. And the goaltending, in my opinion, despite winning the Jennings last year, still has something to prove.
Fair
But
enough.
I love Brindamore, though. Don't get me wrong. And I love Burns, helping out that power play. but also looks good on paper, doesn't always look good on the ice. And I think that's the story with the Carolina Hurricanes this year.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And moving on to the hometown team, the ones that we cheer for, the New York Rangers. I mean, if you didn't figure it out by now, I have them first since I said Carolina was second. I mean, dude, first and foremost, you have Igor Shesterkin, the reigning Vezina winner. You have a top 4 defense of Keandre Miller, Jacob Trouba, Ryan Lindgren, and Adam Fox, which I fucking love that on paper. You have a solid defensive defenseman who throws the body around in Schneider. And then you probably have Zach Jones on the left side of him, who's going to be almost everyone is going to be a massive upgrade over Patrick Nemeth. But the defense core is set. You have Kreider and Zibanejad on the first line. You signed Trocheck to play on second line center with Panarin. Granted, while there's still question marks a little bit at right wing, the kid line is looking to be intact as of now going into the season, which that in itself, please, 2 thumbs up, sign me up. Fourth line, I mean, there's still a couple question marks in my personal opinion, but overall, this team does need to take a step forward in both shots per game, shots per game and shots against per game. But I think Trocheck is going to help in both of those areas because this is, like we said during the offseason, a player that the Rangers needed to sign who is going to pay dividends. And there's a lot less question marks about this team going into this season that there were going into last season, in my opinion. But with the team constructed the way it is and the goaltender they have, I have them finishing first in the division.
Right. And with that said, there's more pressure on this Rangers team. They're coming off an appearance in the Eastern Conference Final. You know, making the playoffs now and getting bounced in the first round isn't good enough. Last year, making it to the playoffs and getting bounced in 7 games, would it have been disappointing? Yeah, but is that about what we expect? Yeah, about pretty much. If the Rangers had gotten knocked out in Game 7 by the Penguins, I would certainly be disappointed, but I wouldn't be surprised with the roster that they had entering the season. But yeah, I'm just going to echo a lot of what you said, Shades. I mean, they have a top 10 center in the league in Mika Zibanejad. They have a top 5 defenseman in the league in Adam Fox. You have a top 2 goaltender in the league in Igor Shesterkin. You have a top 10 coach in the league in Gerard Gallant. You have a top 5 winger in the league in Artemi Panarin. I mean, they are just set at every single position. And then you look at their prospects. They have a top 5 wing prospect in Alexis Lafreniere. They have a top 5 defensive prospect in all of hockey in Keandre Miller. They have another top 10 defensive prospect in all of hockey in Braden Schneider. This is a really, really good, complete team, and they are going to win the Metropolitan Division this year. There's one thing holding them back. It's a top-line winger, and I know everyone's going to say, yeah, let's put Alexis Lafreniere up there with Kreider and Zibanejad, and let's call it a day. While I love that, I think the line of Kakko, Chytil, and Lafreniere is too good to split up. So we're going to be at a point at the trade deadline, like we were last year. We brought in Vetrano. He was that shot in the arm we needed. So while I think they're going to win the division, I think there's a big trade happening at the trade deadline where they bring in a bona fide top 6 superstar winger to solidify the lineup that they already have. And I think his name is Patrick Kane. But again, I'm just putting that out there. I think the Rangers are one top 6 forward away, but I think that Drury's going to realize that, and he's going to make that move at the deadline. Because Sammy Blais is just not cutting it on the first line. Vitaly Kravtsov, I'm sorry. I know you haven't watched a lot of preseason, Shades, but for the Ranger fans watching, he just doesn't look like a top 6 forward. I mean, you're playing with Artemi freaking Panarin. He's your country mate, and he's playing on the opposite wing, and you can't produce anything. You're playing with a center in Vincent Trocheck who can grind it out like the best of them and help create those opportunities. Kravtsov is not producing. You don't want to break up that kid line. A decision's going to have to be made, and that's where I think the mindset's going to be at the deadline. But as long as Drury does what he has to do and fills out the roster the way he needs to, I think at the end of the day, they'll win the Metro. I do.
Yeah, like we said, right wing is still a concern. But,
it is.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. If anything happens during the season, definitely upgrades to be had. But yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that this team is going to run away with the division. Okay, maybe not run away, but I think it's clear that they're going to win the division. So moving on to the team that finished third in the Metro last year, the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yep.
Once again, they're another year older. I mean, they haven't won a playoff round since 2017. I mean, Jari did have a pretty good season last year. I mean, they have a decent defensive core. I mean, see, their forward group is interesting because they have guys like Rust, Raquel, Kapanen, Carter. Carter's 37. Kapanen is just okay. Raquel is a shell of himself. Rust is still a good forward. Zucker, I mean, personally, I thought he looked better when he was on Minnesota, but you still have the big three of Crosby, Malkin, Gensel, who are probably going to carry this team to a playoff spot because I have them finishing fourth in the division as a wild card spot because this team just does not miss the fucking playoffs. That's why I have them in a wild card spot.
Shades, every single year I've done this, and I think I've been on podcast 4, maybe 5 straight years, doing this exact thing. And every single one of those years, ever since I started, I took Pittsburgh to miss the play. And I'm doing it again. I'm just going to keep doing it until I'm right. I have them finishing 5th and right outside the wild card. I think they'll be competitive throughout the year, but I have them 5th. And I think that second wild card in the Eastern Conference is going to go to somebody else in this division that I'll get to in just a moment.
Yeah, like I said, I have them finishing 4th because this is literally, as much as I would love to say that they're going to miss the playoffs, I'm not going to pick them to miss the playoffs unless, 1, they actually missed the playoffs, or 2, something drastic happens, which I don't think that drastic thing has happened yet. So you got them finishing 5th, and I got them finishing 4th in a wild card. Moving on to the team that finished 4th last year, the Washington Capitals. Hot take, I have them missing the playoffs.
Hot take, I have them missing the playoffs and ending up 7th in this division.
Interesting.
There's no Nick Backstrom this year. He's got hip surgery. I don't know when he's coming back. Darcy Kemper, I like, but I just think the loss of your number one center. I know everyone's going to say, oh, Kuznetsov's number one center. No, your number one center when you're fully healthy is Nicholas Backstrom. He's not there. I just don't see it. I think they'll be 7th in this division. I think it'll be close 7th, but I think they're going to be at the bottom. I really do.
I love Kemper too, and I also I like their D-core. I still think it's a solid D-core, even though they only have one player under 30 on it. Ovechkin, his health is actually becoming a question mark for the first time in his career. They have a lot of the same people that they won the cup with. Like you said, Backstrom's out. Wilson's out to start the season, most likely. Or actually, he might be out until January, if I remember seeing something correctly. Hagelin, I think he's out to start the season. That's 3 major losses. And like the Bruins, they're another team older. They haven't, but except Capitals haven't won a playoff round since they won the cup. And I see this the year that they finally start to fall off and go towards the bottom of the league. Not exactly too quick, but I think this is finally the year that we finally see that drop off.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Right. So I still have them 5th though.
Yeah, I have them 7th. So.
All right. And moving on to the team who I actually have finishing 3rd in the division, who finished 5th last year, the New York Islanders.
Mm-hmm.
So last year, they started off the season, major road trip. Then a whole crap ton of players got COVID. By the time they got everyone back, it was too late. And they only finished, what was it? I mean, well, technically they finished 16 points out of a playoff spot, but they were the COVID equivalent to the Knights last year with all the legitimate injuries.
Yeah, they were pretty heavily injured throughout the entirety of the year, and they started their season on the road for what was it, 8-9 straight games before they even got a chance to play at UBS Arena.
It might have been more like 14.
Yeah, and then they lost like their first 8 games at UBS. So I mean, long story short, Shades, I have them finishing 3rd as well. So I'm right with you. I think they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they'll have a very tough first round matchup against the Hurricanes. We'll see how they do.
Yeah, a little bit of a bounce back year for them because they have a majority of the same team that went to the 2 straight Eastern Conference Finals. They just re-signed Barzell, good defensive core. Varlamov has been very good, and yeah, I think they're due for a bounce back year if you want to even call it that.
Yep, definitely.
All right, on to. So we both have them finishing third. Okay, on to the team that finished sixth in the division last year, the Blue Jackets. They signed Johnny Gaudreau, got the big ticket free agent during the offseason, but they did end up losing Oliver Bjorkstrand. And this team is not good enough to make the playoffs, but at the same time, I don't see them bad enough to be in the top of the draft lottery conversation. But it's not that great of a team. I have them finishing seventh.
Yeah, Shades, they finished sixth last year. I'm going to have them finish sixth this year. I mean, they bring in Johnny Gaudreau, which I think is obviously a great addition to play alongside Patrick Laine on that first line. But we spoke about it once the move was made. There's no first line center here. No. You know, it's Cole Sillinger, who's good. He's a good prospect. You got Kent Johnson as well, who are good prospects. They haven't proven anything at the NHL level. The defense is very, very young. You know, Adam Boquist is your number one defenseman. And while he's a good prospect, I just don't know if he's number one defenseman on a playoff team, and the goaltending is a dumpster fire. So I just have them finishing sixth. That's just where I'm at with Columbus. Hey, I think they'll get better, but they're not going to make the playoffs.
Same. Don't disrespect Zach Werenski like that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, not Zach Werenski. Hey, look, Laine and Voracek and Gaudreau, very good, but the forward group, the depth is just it's not there. It's not there. Which is why. Yeah, Oliver Bjorkstrand also. They lost him.
Ooh, yeah, it's tough.
So. Yeah, no, seventh. On to the team that actually finished seventh last year, who I have finishing sixth this year, the New Jersey Devils. You could make an argument that they were better than their record indicated last year, but they couldn't keep the puck out of their own net, which, yeah, that's pretty much why they finished where they were.
Good here's my
good young players. Team up on the rise, but they're not there yet.
Yeah, this is gonna be my hot take. I have the second wild card spot in the East. I think it's gonna go to New Jersey, and I really like what they've built. Was there a problem keeping the puck out of their own net last year? Yes, but did they have Mackenzie Blackwood almost at all last year? No, they really didn't. And I like the addition of Andre Palat a lot. No rhyme intended. You know, Jack Hughes, I think, is great. Nico Hischier, I think another year of him is going to be fantastic. I think Alexander Holtz, you know, is a prospect waiting in the wings. They're a young team, but I think they're ready to make that jump. I think Dougie Hamilton is still really, really good and gets underrated a little bit by other fans around the NHL. The coaching, you know, Lindy Ruff, you know, say what you want. But I think they're going to make a big step up this year. And this is the year that New Jersey finally solidifies themselves as a team to be reckoned with in the Metro. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
That's a fair point. I see them. They need another year for me. That's just my opinion.
That's fair enough. And Shades, I have a great prediction for our last team here, but I'll let you take it away.
On to the team that finished last in the Metro Division this year, and they're going to finish last in the Metro Division again this year, the Philadelphia Flyers. And I just want to say this. We know they're a terribly constructed team. There's not a lot of good players on that team. I need to see video evidence of Torts and D'Angelo going at each other. I need to see it. And if it doesn't happen, I'm actually going to be quite disappointed, not going to lie.
That makes two of us, Shades. And, you know, I agree with you in the fact that they're going to be eighth in the Metro, but here's my hot take. Place your bets now. The team that's going to finish last in the National Hockey League this year is the Philadelphia Flyers. I think they're going to be worse than the Blackhawks, worse than the Coyotes, worse than the Canadiens. This is, pardon my French, a complete and utter fucking dumpster fire of a hockey team. That is what the Philadelphia Flyers are.
And Liam, that is probably a great way to end it because honestly, it's true. And they showed that last year. And really, there's not much else that needs to be said about the Philadelphia Flyers. But just out of curiosity, I'm actually going to look at their cap friendly page to see just how bad it is.
It's just
outside of Provorov and maybe Sanheim, the defensive core is shot. Sean Couturier is on injured reserve, as well as Ryan Ellis, but he's already a shell of himself. Carter Hart did not have a good season at all last year. I mean, you got Kevin Hayes, JVR, Cam Atkinson, Travis Konechny, decent forwards. Won't lie. Farabee, young up and coming player. Tippett, I thought he would have been further along with his development at this point in his career. Bobby Brink is a good up and coming forward. Morgan Frost, good young player. But I mean, it's just a complete and utter shit show.
Yeah, Shades, there's pieces there for sure, but I just don't think that the Flyers have established their identity yet. I don't think their identity is a lottery team. I don't think that's how their upper management views themselves. I think they just view last year as an anomaly. We'll turn it around. We'll make the playoffs. We have a brand new coach in John Tortorella. But if you really just, all you have to do is do what you just did. Go to the cap friendly page. Just look at some of the contracts. I mean, you were being pretty kind with how you described a lot of their players and where they're at. I mean, Rasmus Ristolainen, that could be one of the worst fucking contracts in the NHL. I mean, damn. And they gave up a first round pick to get Rasmus Ristolainen. I mean, it just makes absolutely zero sense. Martin Jones was better than Carter Hart was last year, and Martin Jones is gone, and Carter Hart is your starting goaltender. The forward group, you lose Claude Giroux at the trade deadline last year. Just, Kevin Hayes lost his brother Jimmy last offseason. Where is his head at? You can't, kind of put into words what a loss of that magnitude does to a player's confidence. You talk about the defensive core as well. Even Provorov, everyone loves Provorov. Had a bad year last year. Had probably one of the worst years of his career. Travis Sanheim is a guy that was a seventh defenseman for them entering last year. And now suddenly he's in their top four because it's literally that bad. So I could go on for days and days about the Philadelphia Flyers. I like Owen Tippett. I like some of the forward prospects. I like Bobby Brink too. But that's about where the positive thoughts about the Philadelphia Flyers come to an end for me. I think literally if you're a hockey fan listening to this video right now and you are in a betting state, go to DraftKings, go to FanDuel, tell me, comment down below what the odds are for the Flyers to finish last in the league and just put a little bit of dough on it and you just might get a nice return on your investment at the end of the year because this team flat out stinks.
And knowing how the universe works, now that we said this, they're going to finish 7th in the division.
I am not liable for any bet taken about this team. I'm merely just expressing based on the roster. And if you don't believe me, go to Cap Friendly yourself, and then you'll see just what encapsulates the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah, no, it's no bueno. No bueno. Just a side note. Bobby Brink literally sounds like somebody that the Minnesota Wild would have drafted. Tell me not.
It does. It does.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, I was kind of hoping that they would draft him during the draft just so I could be like, yeah, that just sounds right.
Yeah. Yeah, Bobby Brink, Minnesota Wild, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, the Flyers are just a shit show that's gonna round out the Metro division. And that is our 2022-2023 preseason division predictions for